Well, I went live, but it was all black. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so what is the secret to success in excuse me, clearing your throat before you speak is the secret to success. No, the secret to success in all creative endeavors, and I think that is understanding the human need for emotional tourism. Now, we're going to get into that, but first, who am I? My name is Cody C. Engdahl. I am the author that you know and your friend. A couple things I want to say. First of all, I just realized as soon as I started talking that if I sound like I'm drunk, I'm not, which is rare. I have a problem with my mouth. I think it's called candida. It's a well, I won't get into the details. Candida, and the even worse version of it is called thrush, and it makes talking and eating and basically existing very painful. So my tongue is swollen. I am seeing a doctor about it. I'm on medication that is probably going to make me lose even more of my hair, but I have to do something. So anyway, enough about that. I am the author of 7 books, 5 of which are novels. And what is the purpose of this channel or this show? Well, this is just my way of sharing my journey with you, whether you are an author yourself or a reader or interested in historical fiction or the behind the scenes of independent publishing and independent writing, which I am one of the people involved with that. Am I an expert in everything? I like to act like it, but I'm an expert of nothing. I wouldn't say that. I'm a very experienced person. I make mistakes. I learn from mistakes. And see, I can barely make that word, mistakes. But I'm sharing that journey with you. Why do I do this? Well, because I'm incredibly vain and I like to hear myself talk. No, it's because, first of all, sometimes for me, the way for me to think things out is to talk them out. The other thing is also, this is kind of a practice. Now, I used to be an on-camera. I used to be a reporter on. I did a lot of live television, and I had developed kind of a skill that I had let go. And the other part of this is, and so I'm kind of like wanting to keep that because every once in a while I get invited to do a talk somewhere or be on a podcast. So I'm practicing my oratory skills. This show is very candid and it's very unscripted. I have an idea what I want to talk about, and then we're going to talk about it. All right, so let's get into this. So this all started with a conversation I had with my girlfriend, Laura Reiner. And by girlfriend, I really mean my de facto wife. We live separately, but we spend about 3 nights together a week. We've been together since 2011. We've known each other since the early 90s. She's a wonderful woman, and we're really happy with the setup we have. And we are going to be together for eternity, hopefully so. Whatever that means. So we were having this conversation about I like a song. If you know me in real life, you know that I like a lot of music. I play the fiddle. I play old timey music. Big fan of jazz and blues. I probably come out of a hard rock, metal, classic rock era. And I still listen to a lot of that music. But every once in a while, a pop song comes out, and it kind of pops out at me. Okay, sorry, I won't do that a whole lot. I have dad humor. I've gotten to the age where I can now make dad jokes. And there's a song called Deja Vu, and it's every once in a while a pop song I'll hear it and I'm like, I gotta have this, and I download it and I love it. And I have a collection of very modern pop songs that I like. And I don't know what it was that drew me to the song at first. It has a very sparse feel to the music. There's a lot of snare drum, a lot of really good snare drum beat to it. And the song is a young woman, and she's singing to apparently her ex boyfriend, lover, whatever. And she's saying, when you go and do all these things with this new woman, do you get deja vu? Because these are the things that we did together. When you tell her those were jokes that I told you. When you sing Billy Joel, I'm the one who introduced you to Billy Joel. And I think what draws me, it's a good tune. It's catchy, and the melody, all that kind of stuff. But I think what really draws me to the song is the pain I feel. And it's not just in her, it's not just the words, but you can feel the pain in her voice. And it's a raw, real emotion. It's a petty emotion. She's being petty, but yet we understand this. I know what it's like. I remember a breakup back when I was a teenager, like in high school or junior high. I think it was high school. I had a girlfriend. We broke up, and all of a sudden she rebounded and she was with someone else. And now I'm seeing them do the things that we used to do. And I was like, soul crushing, right? Soul crushing. So we were talking about that song, and then I asked the question, why do people like sad songs? Why? And Laura said, well, maybe because they're going through something bad, and they like to hear that someone else is going through something bad too. Something like that. Okay. Yeah. Or that someone else has felt this way too. I said, yeah, but sometimes the sad songs are not an experience that I've had or one that I'm feeling now, but yet I still like the sad song. And then I got onto a bigger conversation about, okay, for example, right now it's October the 2nd, I think, October 2nd. And so it's Halloween season. And by the way, Halloween is my favorite holiday of the whole year. I love Halloween. It's the only one where I actually no, it's one of the only ones. Well, no, I participate in a lot of them, but I'm excited about it. I get a pumpkin. I always I take a break from reading because I read in my genre mostly. So I'm usually reading some historical fiction novel, whether it's a contemporary written one or a classic. I'm always reading in my genre, but horror is one of my first loves, and I used to read a lot of horror when I was younger. I think horror is such a I wrote horror stories. I if I would have started writing back in my teens and early 20s, I probably would have been a horror writer. And there are some horror elements in my books that I borrow that I kind of dip into. They're not horror books, but I find little things that would excite me, but that way. Why do we watch horror movies? Oh yeah, all I want to say is that Halloween, the month of Halloween, I read a horror novel. In fact, I'm reading The Hellbound Heart, which is the novella in which Hellraiser was based off of. I've been wanting to read it forever. I finally found a copy of it at the library. And we're watching horror movies. We just got done watching Smile. Great movie. I would love to do movie reviews, but I don't want to get into I got too much on my mind. But I will just tell you this. Smile, I feel like the first two acts were fantastic. I was drawn in. The third act, I kind of felt like it was that typical Hollywood, like, well, we got to finish this, so let's find a way to get this over with. But I think this young director, film writer is going places, and I'd like to see what he does. If this is his first movie, I'd like to see what he does through his career. So this is a guy to follow. But yeah, why do we watch horror movies? I mean, and I'll tell you, I get like just the other night, I got done watching over the weekend Smile, and and so now I'm watching all the reviews and like, oh yeah, because by the way, this is what my college degree was in, actually, was film studies. And even though back then I was trying to turn it into film production, it was really film criticism. So I watched movies and wrote papers about them, and I think that really has helped me in my novel writing today, because even though I don't really have a desire to be a filmmaker anymore, I really don't, actually. Um, I still try to think when I write cinematically. And so watching movies, and also movies are just basically long form fiction in, visual, where like the novel is the written version of it, film is the, visual audio one. And so you can learn a lot about storytelling and character development and pacing, all that stuff from watching a movie. Is it exactly the same? No, but there's a lot of overlap between the two. And also, I know that you're always writing towards your audience. And my audience, like most people, have probably watched more movies than they've read books. Even if they're voracious readers, they still watch it. They've seen movies, or they've experienced that. So I try to think, like, for example, when I get stuck and I'm writing a scene or stuck in my book of what happens next, I think about, if I'm watching this as a movie, what would be the next scene? And also I do like something I learned in news, which is called the Nat sound. What do they call it? Nat sound pop, or there was something like that. Basically, you would edit to kind of jar people with like a sound effect. You would have like the person would be talking, and then you show a close up of a drill going into something, and you would hear it, and then the narrator would say, "Home building has been increasing in this neighborhood since blah blah blah." So using like sound bites or sound effects or something to kind of to set the next scene, to go to the next scene. So I write like that. So I write in a visual way that like that I learned from filmmaking, and I've learned from uh, writing news stories and editing packages and things like that. So anyway, what I was trying to say is, God, I ramble so much. I'm so sorry. I'm watching all these reviews, and they keep showing like some of the jump scares, and I'm like, damn it, I'm about to go to bed, and now I'm freaked out, and so I had to watch something funny to make me laugh. But why do I put myself through that? Why do I watch things that scare me, that make it so that I have a hard time going to sleep because now I'm freaked out because the smiling girl looks like she's in my closet now? Why do I do that? Why do I listen to songs that make me feel sad? Well, it's the same reason why you read love stories. And it's the same reason why you read thrillers and action and adventure. It's because it's the way they make you feel. And this is what I mean by emotional tourism. And by that, I mean, the horror movie is a perfect example. Horror movie or a horror novel is that nobody wants to go through an actual episode of horror, right? And actually, I think we misuse the words, because horror and terror, I just recently learned the difference. And when I tell you the difference, it'll make immediate sense. Horror is your reaction to seeing something that is horrible, something bad or scary. You're horrified by seeing it. Terror is anticipating it. So terror is the anticipation of something bad. So you're terrified. You feel terror. Terror is waiting for it to happen. Horror is your response to it happening. See what I mean? So I think a lot of times it's the terror that we enjoy more than the horror. I mean, I guess it's just scales of both. Like, for example, if you're a fan of the slasher, it's more horror than terror, because they're showing you the kills, they're showing you the gore, which I think there's an art to it, and I am never going to put down anything that other people enjoy. And I do like a good slasher every once in a while. Um, but it's the terror that of the anticipation of it, I think, is far more scary. And that's why I realize that I like more of the psychological ghost stories than like a guy, hacking up a bunch of mean cheerleaders in a cabin. So why do we like it though? Why do we watch something that makes us scared? And it's because there's a certain amount of adrenaline and it causes us to feel. It allows us to be, as I say, emotional tourists and not actually have to go through the terror. We can feel the sensation of fight or flight by watching one of those movies without actually having to experience it. When you listen to a sad song and it gets you a little bit of emotional, and I'm a very emotional guy. I get choked up over stupid commercials sometimes. I don't have to go through that heartbreak. I can be an emotional tourist and feel it. Think about this, because Laura and I were having this conversation. Some of the earliest known narration storytelling are like Greek drama, right? And there's the two faces. There's the laughing face and the crying face. So it's either comedy or tragedy, right? And that's really everything can be broken down to that. Horrors are just tragedies, right? And it's making you feel. And so even the ancient Greeks were writing sad stories, tragedies. Why? And think of someone in their toga going, and I don't know if they paid in coin or whatever, going and sitting down in the amphitheater in 200 BC or whatever, and because they want to go watch something that's going to make them sad. And what it is it allows them to feel. It allows them to feel these emotions without having to live with the consequences. Okay, Brian Riley says, hearing Han Solo scream while being tortured in The Empire Strikes Back was really powerful and scary. Yes. And once again, that allowed you to feel those emotions, that dread, without actually going through it. You don't actually have to watch your friend and your hero get tortured and scream in pain. But we can take you through that emotional roller coaster. The same thing with roller coasters. Why does anybody get on a roller coaster? I saw one the other day. When I was a kid, like the Demon, I lived in Detroit, so like Cedar Point was like our Disney World. And they had the corkscrew that made you go upside down. That came out when I was a kid. They had the Demon Drop, where you go up in a kind of like an elevator, it takes you and then drops you. Man, this thing, it's at Cedar Point. Actually, I saw the ad for it. It goes up, and then it gets to the top, and then the whole thing just shifts like this, and then drops you straight down. It looks terrifying. And of course, there are people like, hell no. But yet people get on it. People get on that ride, right? They get on that ride. And even the people that willingly get on that ride are screaming bloody murder when they're going over the precipice. I can't say the words that I know how to spell it, precipice. Because why do they do it? Because they're emotional tourists. And so this is the point that I want to make, is that I read constantly. And I mean, first of all, I read constantly for research. I'm writing the end of the Battle of Sedan, which is taking me way too long to get through this battle, but I wanted to get everything right. I read a lot of nonfiction, but I'm also reading a lot of novels, and I read a lot of classics because I like them. And especially because very few novels have been written about the Franco-Prussian War, which is kind of scary when you think that I'm writing one that probably the reason why there hasn't been a lot written is because there's probably not a lot of demand. But I'm also reading contemporary ones as well. But outside of that, I read other contemporary historical fiction authors. all the time. I'm always reading someone else's books because I want to, and I always give everybody a 5-star review and write a positive review about it. And I'm not being disingenuous when I do. I'm going to tell you everything that's good about it. But I have read several that they had everything in it, right? The writing was fine. There wasn't problems with the writing. The characters were fine. The story was fine. There wasn't anything that was too implausible. There wasn't, the pacing, everything. There was nothing wrong with the novel, but yet I didn't love it. It didn't suck me in. Maybe in the third act, I was like, oh, I'm getting close to the end. I'm going to finish this up. But I realized that a lot of novels, and I think especially people who, some of the people that like have to put out like 2 novels a year. And I'm not saying everybody's this way, and I'm not naming anybody or anything like that. And if you think it's you, it's not. It's someone else. But I feel like there's not a lot of emotional attachment to anything that's going on. That it's a good story. There's nothing wrong with the writing, but they're not making me feel anything. And I think that is the key. When you write a song, when you make a movie, when you write a book, when you sculpt something. One of my favorite sculptures of all time is the Pietà. I think it's Michelangelo. And there's different versions of this, but Michelangelo's one, I think, it's Mother Mary, and she's holding her dead son Jesus in her arms, and he's all sprawled out, and he's bone thin, and there's just so much passion and feeling in that sculpture that you look at it, and whether you're a believer of that religion or not, it evokes a very powerful human emotion. Paintings that evoke an emotion. And so I think that, and this is something that I try to do with everything I write, is that, I heard someone say that a historian will tell you what happened, but a novelist will tell you what it was like, what it felt like. And so I think that, to me, is the key to great writing, is that your reader is an emotional tourist, and they're looking for something to give them, to make them feel. And sometimes a drab and dreary world where sometimes they've grown numb to things, bad news all the time on television, and on the news, and arguments, troubles in their lives, things like that. And sometimes they become numb to the world around them. Maybe they're in an unloving relationship. I'm painting a very dark, gray, bleak world. It may not be that bad, but what I'm saying is that when people go to pick up a book, most people, at least me, when I go and pick up a book, I want to leave 2024 Nashville and go on an adventure and feel things that I don't feel on a regular day basis. Think about the most popular genre. Do you know what the most popular genre is in all novels worldwide? The number one most popular genre. It's the romance novel, by far. I think the second, after that, the second most popular is contemporary thriller. And what does the romance novel do? It allows you to fall in love again. Vicariously through the characters that you read. And that's why romance novelists will tell you there are, like, for example, I thought Mexico, My Love was a romance novel. And I had billed it as such when I first wrote it. I come to find out that it's a love story. It's definitely a love story, but it's not a romance novel. Because a romance novel always has always has to have a happy ending, whereas Mexico My Love is a tragedy. And once again, it doesn't make it a bad book or something that people don't want to read. It's just that people who want to read a romance novel are expecting certain things, and people who want to read a tragedy are expecting certain things too. And why do I write a tragedy? And I actually told, I said this, to Laura. I said, I want people to read Mexico My Love, put the book down, lie down on the floor, and cry for a week. That's what that was. But why? Because you don't have to go through the loss yourself. You can live through it, and you can feel, because even bad feelings, fear and sorrow, make you feel alive. And you can put on the mask and be someone else and read it through a book and go through those things without having to take the risks and without having that the consequences afterwards. So that's it. Now, first of all, everybody can come at this from whatever direction they want to come at it, depending on the genre that you write, the kind of stuff that you write. I write, well, the big category is historical fiction. And then within it, I would say action adventure, and within that, military. And I'm going to start moving away from military. There's going to be combat for sure, but all my books have been, about armies and battles and things like that. And there may still be that, but the next few things after I finish the book I'm writing now, which is called The French Fiasco, which is definitely a military historical novel. I'm going to write a pirate book, and so it's not going to be necessarily in a military. There's still going to be military stuff in it, and there's still going to be battle. But you see what I'm saying? The character is not in a military. And then some of the things I'm going to do after that are kind of like action adventure, but not necessarily someone in a war, I guess, is what I want to say. But what is the emotion that I want to put into my book? Well, I put a little bit of everything. I like to think of myself as a humorist. So there are jokes in my books. I'm hoping that there are points in my books that will make people laugh, that will make you laugh when you read it. If you've ever read any of my books and at some point something made you laugh, it was because I wanted you to. I do put a little terror in there. I want you to be scared at times. I want you to be angry sometimes. I want you to feel love and romance and loss and sorrow, but exhilaration and adventure. And basically, my philosophy has always been, they say this, and I think this is true. You can't please everybody, right? And but I feel like if you pick like who you're trying to please and focus on that, you'll get a lot more people than you didn't realize. So for me, when I started writing my books, I wanted to write for the 12-year-old boy I was, that was in love with swords and stories of honor, guys that were honorable and even honor amongst enemies, and went on big adventures and had romantic interludes with a woman they're in love with. And I wanted to have that excitement and that wide-eyed wonder that I had as a 12-year-old. I wanted that exhilaration that I felt watching, Errol Flynn fighting, sword fighting with the villain, Luke Skywalker swinging across the chasm with the princess in his arm. I wanted that feeling. I wanted things that gave me that feeling. And even though my books are for adults, and when I was 12, I was reading adult books by that time. I want to evoke that feeling of adventure and excitement that I felt as a 12-year-old boy. I try to hit a little bit of everything in the books. And I don't like have a checklist, like, okay, did I have a joke in there? Did I have something to make you sad? But I feel like because I'm always trying to convey what my characters are feeling through their actions and what they're going through and how they're perceiving the world around them, that the reader isn't just reading they're not just reading the events that are going on, but they're feeling it. They're feeling it like the way the character is feeling it, and they're going through the emotions that the character is going through. So that's it. That is my the key to everything. I think that if you put emotional context into everything you do, and someone said, and I've taken this to heart. It's people will forget the things that you said, but they'll always remember the way you make them feel, and you got to keep that in mind. It's the way you make people feel is more important than the things you say or even the actions that you take. So think about that in your interpersonal relationships with other people. Think about that when you are meeting people. How are you making people feel? Of course, you can become a crippling, you can have that crippling self-consciousness that I have that makes it so I can't even leave my house half the time because, I mean, I do. I'm not whatever that phobia is, but I hate going to I hate going to the grocery store because I feel like I'm in everybody's way and everybody's angry at me. But because I'm very self-conscious. I'm very self-conscious of how people are perceiving me, how I'm making people feel. And so I guess there's a Goldilocks somewhere in there. But yeah, create with emotional context. And I think if you do, and people can tell the difference. People can tell the difference between something that's soulless. I'll give you an example that I'll go ahead and pick on. Okay. I do like space opera and science fiction too. I think that's probably my second or third favorite genre. I don't think I'll ever gonna write it. I might. I have some ideas, but okay, so much else to write. But I got interested in the whole 40K thing, the Warhammer 40K. It started off online where I was seeing images from it, and I'm like, "What is this?" And I joined a group, and it was called the Imperium of Man, and I had no idea what it was. I didn't know it was a role-playing game. I think it was a role-playing game, a tabletop role-playing game, and then it turned into a video game. Then it turned into like novels. And so if you're not familiar with 40K Warhammer, I think the original Warhammer was like a Dungeons and Dragons style game with, swords and sorcery. And then they made a science fiction version of it. And so there's Warhammer and then there's Warhammer 40K. So 40K means the year 40,000. So we're in the year 2024. So this is like 38,000 years from now. And the galaxy has been populated, and there's all these different styles of space marines fighting each other, and there's an emperor, and it's space opera basically. But it's really neat because the space marines or soldiers wear these like mechanical suits, and there's kind of a Renaissance feel to it, but in space with robotic suits. It's really cool. And so I wanted to delve into that world. Like, that world looks really a lot of fun, really cool. And so I got a novel. And I think it was like an omnibus. It had like 3 novels in it. And I think I read 2 of them before I had to return the book. And they were interesting. They were well written. They were full of action and just over the top. I mean, it was great action. But none of it really drew me in because it was just all a bunch of like biggest dickus blowing each other up, and everything was the most intense and it was just intensity, nothing but intensity. And I guess, there are people that like that. And it was very much like playing a video game but reading it. And I guess video games are like that. Is there a lot? I don't play video games, so I don't know. But there was nothing making me really care about the characters or what was going on or who was winning. And I mean, it was obvious, the villains are very villainous. So it's easy to say, okay, those are the bad guys, these are the good guys, and we're rooting for the good guys. But do I like them? Were they interesting? not really. I didn't feel much, and so it didn't really suck me in. And that's a good example of it. The books were well written. In the world that existed, the plot seemed plausible. Great action sequences, but I didn't feel anything. Now, contrast to that, I will tell you that probably my favorite living writer right now is Arturo Pérez Reverte, and he wrote the Alatriste series, and I'll tell you, this is the man that made me start writing. I was always going to write. I wrote short stories from junior high school all the way through college, none of which I can find. I think I have one that I might do something with someday. I started writing a novel in the 90s and didn't finish it. I was reading the second book of the Alatriste series. Now, who is Alatriste? Think of a Spanish musketeer. It's 1600s. He's a swordsman, a soldier, but he's also and he's very taciturn, very quiet, but tough and serious. And the emotions in the book, I mean, it's like reading a painting. It was just, I don't know, the way the book made me feel. And it was the second book, the book 2 of it. I was sitting in my chair, and at one point, I was just so taken by what I was reading and so affected by it emotionally. And I set it down on my lap. I literally did this, closed my eyes and took a deep breath to just kind of collect myself. And I thought, I have to start writing. I want to write like this. I want to be like this person. And ironically, or not, actually, more like logically enough, Arturo Pérez Reverte, his favorite author, who he models himself after, is Alexander Dumas, who is my favorite author too. Alexander Dumas wrote the Three Musketeers series. He wrote The Count of Monte Cristo and countless other things. And so this is Pérez Reverte's way of writing his own version of a musketeer, but a Spanish one. I love it. My favorite series of all time, hands down. And you know how I bitch about first-person narratives? It's all in first person. But what's great, but I think this is a way to do it. Alatriste isn't the narrator. He's the main character. But the narrator is a boy who Alatriste's best friend dies in his arms before book 1. And the best friend says, when you go back to Spain, will you take care of my child? And Alatriste says yes. And so Alatriste becomes a father figure to the narrator. And so the narrator is basically telling his experiences with this great, tragic warrior, Alatriste, swordsman. Wonderful stuff. And I cared about Alatriste. I cared about Inez, I think his name was Inigo, the boy, and all the characters involved in it. It made me feel, and I wanted to write that way, and so that's why I write. All right, so let's wrap up here. Just a quick catch up with me. Right now, we don't have anything on special. The Perils of Perryville will go on 99 cents mid-month for a week, and then 99 pence in the UK as well. If you want updates of when things are on special, join my email list. It's in the description below. Also, I am planning on, once I finish the book I'm writing right now, which is the French Fiasco, I'm going to write a novella that's going to be free and exclusive to only people on my email list. So please join that. And if you join it now, I'm going to put out some promotions to try to build the list, but everybody on my list, whether they're on it now or they join when I put the story out, everybody on the list is going to get the story. It's going to be a novella. It's going to be anywhere between. Well, I know it's going to be more than 3,000 words, but short stories. To me, like 3,000 words to 10,000 words. A novella is like 10,000 words to 40,000 words. This will probably be about 20 to 40,000 words. I'm not quite sure. I'm just kind of judging. It's going to have chapters. It's going to be, if you've read Rampage on the River, it's going to basically be the night before or a few days before Rampage on the River begins. And it's going to be the story of Chester E. Newman, who is a character who's in my first 3 books. And the reason why you do it is it's marketing. It's because I'm building up my email list. And why do you build it up? So that I can let people know when a new book comes out. For example, when we do pre-orders for the French Fiasco, I will be sending out an email to my whole list and hoping to get. So if you want to stay, if you want to know when the specials are, when you want to know when the new releases are, or if you want to know if public appearances I'm going to make where I'll be signing books or whatever, join my list and I'll keep you informed. I won't spam you. What I mean by that, I won't constantly send out stuff just for the sake of sending stuff out. I follow a lot of other people's email lists just because I want to see how other people do it. And I will say there are some people that I unfollow their list because they're good people and they have good content, but it was just too much. And I didn't want to, I felt like it was homework. Every time they sent me a big, long thing, there's a marketing guru. I won't name him, but he's very verbose. And he was one of those, barriers of the lead. He buries the lead all the time. So you got to read through all this junk that you don't care about to get to whatever the meat is. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I think I went back. I got back on it. So I just said, if you don't want to read it, you don't have to read it. But so I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to send you a bunch of other people's stuff either. Maybe every once in a while, if I think there's really something good out there. And I'm still kind of learning the parameters of how I want to use it. But mostly I'm going to use the email list to let you know what's going on with Angel House, which is my company, my books, when they're on sale, when they're coming out, when you might be able to see me in person, and I can sign a book for you. So please join us below. And where I am with the French Fiasco. So I really love this book, but man, has it been a hard one to write. I think it's because I'm trying really hard to stay very, very close to the history while maintaining my story. So I've been doing a lot of stopping and digging deep into events. I am finishing up the Battle of Sedan. Basically, the main climax that happens in the Battle of Sedan and the big climax at the end of part 3 has finished. And then I'm doing kind of a little bit of a denouement with the Emperor about what happens to the Emperor at the conclusion of the Battle of Sedan. And then that's the end of part 3. And then part 4 starts. How long is part 4 going to be? I'm not quite sure. I know what I want to have happen. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get to it to make it make sense. And I go back and forth between, do I do everything I wanted to do, or do I, I'm already, I'll tell you, I'm 77,000 words or maybe 78,000 words into it now. I want to stay close to 80,000. There's no way. I'm going to go over 80,000 for sure. So how long do I want part 4 to be? Especially since the end of part 3, the Battle of Sedan is the big marquee battle of the book. Like every book I write so far ends with has a big battle and then a denouement. Like Rampage on the River was the battle for Island number 10. Perils of Perryville, Battle of Perryville. Blood for Blood at Nashville, the Battle of Nashville. The whole book isn't about that battle, but that battle is the end of the book, or the climax of the book. Mexico, My Love, the Battle of Mexico City and Chapultepec. The Prussian Prince, the Battle of why can't I think of it all of a sudden? Oh goodness, what is it? Sadova is one of the name, but I use the other name in the book. Konigratz, the Battle of Konigratz, and then this one, the Battle of Sedan, is the big blockbuster battle, but there's more story after. And what's nice is, once I got done with Sedan, the rest of the story, everything in the story up through the Battle of Sedan is closely tied to the real history and woven into the real history with historical characters interacting and all that kind of stuff. Once I get done with the Emperor and his last moments after the Battle of Sedan, now the story is going to be my own story that takes place in history. Will be tied to the real history, but not so. It's not telling so much the historical story anymore as it is telling the personal story. So that's where if that makes any sense. How big do I want to make it? If I go real big, I'm going to have to go back into the book and put some other things in it to insert it. Or do I want to just, without making it be like, oh, well, it looks like he just rushed to get to the end. No, I want it to be very satisfying. I just don't know how far it should go after the Battle of Sedan. Is basically where I'm struggling with. So I'm about 78,000 words right now. And when I finish writing this last chapter of chapter 3, I'll be, or part 3, I'm going to take some time. I have to do some editing of the last 2 chapters. And do a little bit of thinking through. Part of it, well, I don't want to get too far into this. Part of it is, where does the story literally go? Like, there's 2 different places where I could have the rest of it play out, and I have good reasons and bad reasons, pros and cons for both of them. So I'm still working out. Am I going to get the rough draft done by mid-October? Probably not. That's fine. I'm still planning on having it out early next year. I'm thinking marketing-wise and also excuse-wise, I want to do 60 days of pre-sales, or pre-orders. Because if I do a 60-day pre-order, hopefully Amazon will put out because I have 169 followers on Amazon now. And so I'm not able to interact with any of those people. Just Amazon does. So Amazon is supposed to put out, or sometimes puts out, an email to that list, says, hey, an author you follow, Cody C. Engdahl, has a pre-order. And also when the book comes out, an author that you follow, Cody C. Engdahl, has a book out. And they never did it for my last book. And I think, the pre-order thing, I read somewhere that you have to have at least 60 days worth of pre-orders to get that email. So I'm hoping to do that. So I want to do 60 days this time. I don't like to start the pre-order until at least the first draft is done, because I know that I can get it edited and get it all done within a month or 2 months. So the other thing is, so that was why I don't think the pre-order email went out, but then the new release thing didn't come out either. And I think, I could be wrong, because I've seen other authors, my friend Lloyd, I just got an email saying, hey, an author you follow, Lloyd Elmer, hey, before your birthday. I'll get to that, Lloyd. That's Lloyd, who I'm talking about right now, who I'm extremely jealous, because I got an email saying that Lloyd He's got a new book out, The Little Ronin, which, by the way, I suggest that's how he spells his name. So look him up on Amazon. But nothing came out for the Prussian Prince, and I think it's because, most of this stuff is automated and its algorithm is artificial intelligence. I think it's because the Prussian Prince on the cover has 19th century German military iconography on it. And it's the same iconography, military iconography, that the bad guys from World War II, which I don't want to say because, once again, the algorithms will go nuts and think that I'm saying things that I'm not, that the bad guys of World War II had co-opted or basically inherited, right? So I think because of that, my book got suppressed. I think that they didn't want to send it out there because they were not, and I don't think a human made that decision. So maybe because my other books did have emails go out. I think I can't remember which ones did and which ones didn't. I should probably take note of that from now on. So to answer the question, I got reinvited. I don't ask because I got reinvited to the Mid-South Military and the Mid-South Military and Civil War Show, which is in New Haven, Mississippi, which is basically a suburb of Memphis. It's just over the border. It's not in Tennessee. It's in Memphis. If you don't know, is in the southwest corner of Tennessee. And so anyway, I've been doing this every year. It's $85 for a table. I would never pay that. It's just not worth it to me. But they always give me a table because I play the fiddle and I play Civil War stuff all weekend long. And I don't assume that they're going to do it every year. So I didn't ask, and I waited. And if they never got in touch with me, it'd be fine. But long story short, they reach out to me and they say, "Hey, we'd love to have you back. We're going to comp you a table and everything." I said, "Great." So last time I was there, the Prussian Prince was out, and I had it. I had my Pickelhaube. I have a Prussian flag I put out, and so my goal is, no matter what, the French Fiasco will be out before the first weekend in March. So that I can bring a box of them to New Haven and sell them there and sign them there. And I think I sold quite a few of the Prussian Prince. I will say I haven't really done the analysis yet, but just what I'm seeing anecdotally, I feel like my Civil War trilogy sells quite consistently. But my Mexican War and my Austro-Prussian War books aren't doing as well. I'm not sure, but I don't know if people are getting all the way. They're selling, but I don't think they sell as often as my Civil War stuff. My third book actually is getting close to being my number one moneymaker. I think it's because it's got Nathan Bedford Forrest on the cover. So that's an interesting thing, and I'm probably feeding into that, and I'm beginning to, fuck around, find out thing. I'm beginning to learn that. There's a reason why people write books about, now I'm going to say the word, they write books about Romans, Vikings, or Nazis, because if you put Romans, Vikings, or Nazis on your book, even if the algorithm is not going to send out an email, people love those. If you look at the historical military fiction top 100, it is filled with Romans, Vikings, and Nazis. So writing about the Mexican-American War or 19th century proto-Nazis um, doesn't get quite the attention. I will say though, when I was running ads for the Prussian Prince, which is a great book, I'm very proud of it. When I was running ads on Facebook, it was selling, but I stopped doing that because well, I mean, I spend so much money on advertising that I've been focusing on getting people into book one, which is Rampage on the River. And my plan is right now, the Prussian Prince is $4.99. When the French Fiasco comes out, the Prussian Prince will not only drop to $3.99, but I'll also start running week-long 99 pence promotions. And when I do that, I'll start running ads, because my philosophy right now, or my strategy, and I might have to look into this some more, but I'm always advertising Rampage on the River book one in the US and the UK constantly on Amazon. Always. Those ads are out. I renew them every month just to make sure that I'm physically renewing it instead of letting it run for perpetuity, just so there's some kind of control, so the faucet turns off in case something happens to me, or I'm incapable of turning off, or runs away and all of a sudden spending money I don't have. All the books in the interior, Rampage, Perils, Blood for Blood, and Mexico, I will run 99 pence promos for a week. And when I do, I will also run Amazon ads on those books just when they're on special. And then I'll also spend some money on Facebook. And my strategy with Facebook now is I spend $5. And if I don't make it back, if I'm not making the money back immediately, then I pull it. So I basically, the sales have to pay for the ad. So I basically I run it one day. If I'm making more money back than I'm spending, I'll let it go another day, and I'll let it go. And actually, I had a pretty good run. The last time I ran ads in the U.S. for Blood, I ran that ad all 7 days, because every single day it was making back the money and much more. And what I'm finding, and this doesn't always happen, but I am finding, because the popular logic is that just concentrate on getting people into reading book one and spend your money on that. And if they read book one, hopefully they'll come back and they'll read book 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I have found that sometimes when you discount one of the interior books and you advertise it, and someone's like, for example, Blood for Blood of Nashville gets attention because you see it, there's a picture of Nathan Bedford Forrest. Like, whoa, Nathan Bedford Forrest is in this book. And then people click on it and they go, and even though I say it in the description, you can read this book without having read the previous books, people see it's book 3 and they say, well, I'll go ahead and buy book 1 and 2 as well. And so often I see people writing the whole, buying the whole series. So that's kind of the philosophy. Does that always work? No, but I find it works enough to keep doing it. So that's basically it. Another little rule I started with this book is to not discount it until the next book is coming out. So once I start the pre-orders for the French Fiasco, this is what's going to happen. When I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I know I can get this done in 60 days. And that has to be, I'm done. Not only am I done with the rough draft, but I've also done all the major editing, and now we're just polishing. I will, first of all, I'll take a chunk of the book, a preview, and I'll put it at the end of the Prussian Prince with a link, if you're reading an ebook, to go ahead and to click on so that you can pre-order the next book. The nice thing is that link is still good whether it's a pre-order or you're actually selling it, right? So I will put a preview for the French Fiasco in the Prussian Prince, and and put it out there, and then put that out and then run a 90. Once I do that, then we're going to do a 1 week 99 cents in the US, and then a 1 week 99 pence in the UK. And then we're going to do that every 90 days. And try to get some people to read the Prussian Prince so that they'll want to read the French Fiasco. And I'll also drop the price of the Prussian Prince from $4.99 to $3.99. And eventually the Prussian Prince will drop down to $2.99 after the book after that after the French Fiasco. Once Black James comes out, the Prussian Prince will be $2.99. The French Fiasco will drop down to $3.99, and I'm constantly cascading my prices that way. So that if the book is around 120,000 words, it stays at $3.99. If the book is under 100,000 words, it'll drop down to $2.99, and the new book's always $4.99. That's the scheme right now. It might change with time, but anyway, I've kept you guys too long. It's been an hour. I realized I made this placard or the thumbnail for this days ago, and I never got around to doing this. And I realized, like, I don't want a whole week go by, or more than a week, or I don't know. It's been more than a week, but you know what I'm saying. So I was like, I stayed with Laura last night because we moved her mother into memory care, and so I was coming home. I have work to do with. I work for a research company. I have an appointment I got to keep at 3:00, and I decided, you know what? I'm just going to knock it out. I'm going to go home, and I'm just going to do it. I'm going to put out the links, and I'm going to fire up the computer, and I'm going to have this talk. And so I'm glad I did. I think the next time I come on, and I don't know when, I'm trying to do roughly one a week. It slides around sometimes. I think I am going to talk about horror and Halloween. And, you know, Laura and I are, every October, we try whatever we've been watching, whether it's a show or movies, we kind of hit the pause button on that, and we watch nothing but horror throughout October. And I read horror. I'm reading The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. That is the novella that inspired Hellraiser. I love Hellraiser. I love the whole series. Yeah, absolutely. I love Hellraiser. The original Hellraiser, I think, is one of my top 10 favorite horror movies. I always wanted to read the book. I forgot how good of a writer Clive Barker is. Lloyd, I don't know if you remember this. I always think Lloyd is so much younger than me, but he's actually the same age. He's just pretty. I might be a year younger. I think we're right about the same age, though. But I remember in the 80s that Clive Barker was being billed as the next Stephen King. And I remember seeing those words written somewhere. And I read some of his stuff. I think I read Weave World because back then I was really into horror. I read nothing but horror, and I wrote horror. And anyway, I may have read one or two. I don't think Clive Barker, am I saying, is it Clive Barker? I don't think he took off like people. He didn't quite turn out to be the next Stephen King. Turns out there's really only one Stephen King. But anyway, reading the Hellbound Heart now, and I just read the first chapter this morning. He's a good writer, and you know, a lot of what I've talked about in this video is in that first chapter. And yes. All right, here we go. Love Clive Barker. So I am saying it right. Weave World was my introduction to him. Yeah, I can't remember. I just remember hearing that he was like I read a lot of Stephen King around that time. And I heard that Clive Barker was like, if you like Stephen King, you'll love Clive Barker. I read Weave World. And I may have read a few others. He didn't take with me, like, I didn't love him like I love Clive Barker is the Stephen King what Megadeth is to Metallica, right? If you like Metallica, you'll probably like Megadeth, maybe not as much. I think that's how I felt about Clive Barker. But like I'm saying, I'm reading The Hellbound Heart now, and I'm enjoying it. I forget that he's a good writer. I was kind of expecting it to be like, yeah, whatever, but no, it's a great novel so far. The one thing I heard about him, and I never knew this, all I knew about Clive Barker was that he was, in the 80s, he was the next, I would say this is the late 80s probably when I was reading him, that he was going to be the next Stephen King. I didn't know this about him. First of all, I think he's English. He's gay, and he is kind of into S&M, and that I can't remember I read this or heard this, but that basically the Hellbound Heart was an expression of his own kind of sexual deviancy, his own kind of fascination with like the gay underground S&M world of Britain that he may or may not have been of a participant in. And now there's the character, at least so far. I've only read, Frank. I saw the movie, so I've seen the movie, so I know what's going to happen, but it starts with Frank, but there's no homosexuality in it, but there is this sense of pleasure and pain, and this Frank is kind of a pervert, and he is looking for this legendary, intense pleasure beyond human understanding, and that's what leads him to seek out the puzzle and to open the puzzle and to allow himself to be taken into this world by the Cenobites. And that's chapter 1. And it's great. I love the movie. I thought the movie was fantastic. Please, Hollywood, do not remake it. If they have remade it, I'll probably watch it. But the first one was just so good. I liked a lot of them. I haven't seen them all. I like the one where it starts back the clockmaker. They show the clockmaker. It was a great story. They did the whole thing back in the 1600s with the clockmaker, and then it ends up in space. I thought that was really good. I can't remember which one that was. But anyway, yeah, I think I might talk about that a little bit next time. So anyway, I've been keeping you guys too long. I love you guys. If there's an author out there that you really love and you want to help them, whether it's me or Lloyd or Clive Barker or whomever, go out there, give them a 5-star review, or as many stars as you think they deserve. Give them the rating for sure. If you have time and you feel even kinder, write a couple lines. Say, yeah, it was a great book. Couldn't put it down. That's all you have to write. You don't have to write a very extensive one, like I do sometimes. Just write a couple lines, how much you liked it, and move on. It helps the algorithm. It also helps people who are on the fence, like, I don't know, and read the reviews and like, oh yeah, well, it seems like people like this guy, so I'm going to help him out. So please do that. I love you guys. I don't know when I'll be back on, but I'll be within a week or so. I'll come back with something else. All right. Have a good day.